It's December, and that means it's the end of the year and Christmas is coming rapidly. It also means there's going to be holidays ahead, and most of us are in a festive mood. It's one of my most favorite times of the year. But at the same time, it's also the time of the year which we usually use for planning and forward thinking for the following year. It's the time of the year which, of course, also the Trends Report comes out. Now, the Trends Report is one of my favorite reports, but I'm biased, of course, it would be, because I write a lot of it, and I have been writing it for about 15 years. Just got this one yesterday for the first time. It's the 2020 report, and thought I'd take a couple of minutes maybe and go through some of the highlights with you about what's special in this year's report. If you've never read a Trends Report, I'm not trying to sell you one, but get your hands on a copy and read through it. It is, I promise you, the most comprehensive, impressive, cover to cover, no advertising piece of work which you'll read. There's a half a dozen people that spend 600, 700, 800 hours. I mean, this is not the news. We don't create the news. We don't write the news. This is us taking the news of the year 2019 and analyzing it, taking a deep dive into basically everything and trying to determine which are the companies, the trends, the fads, the changes, the strategies, the innovations, the new business models that are the most significant, that have the most momentum, the most money, the most growth, and which of those do we believe have the potential in the coming years to shape our beloved industry, the industry that you and I care so much about, for the residential real estate brokerage industry. I've been in it my entire life. It is my entire life. And we are dedicated at T360 to providing you the best understanding and analysis of the items out there. There's no advertising in this report from other companies. None of the pieces are sponsored by companies. And if we do write about a company, in many cases, they only find out that we wrote about them when they get the report as well. We do sometimes do fact checking with companies, but this is not somebody paying for a commercial. This is a bunch of smart people that are so committed to the industry that they spend, as I said, hundreds of hours to bring you in one compendium, one book. This is, what is it? Let me see, this year, 220 pages of solid reading. Now, if you say you don't have time to read it, you don't have to read it contiguously. You can read it chapter by chapter. Every chapter is autonomous. And it's probably one of the few books that you will read where, of the 10 chapters, we covered 10 trends, we actually start at chapter 10. And then as you read through the book, it counts down. And it goes from 10 to 1 because we try and put the most important, the most significant, the most far-reaching trend and strategy at the back of the book. Now, you can read them in any order you want. They, of course, are largely written so that you should read it basically from front to back. But it doesn't matter. If you get to a chapter which might cover profitability or broker or franchising or MLS or association, and you might not feel a necessity to read that chapter, you're welcome to skip over that chapter, and it won't impact your reading at all. So as I flip through this for really one of the first times in my life, in its printed format. Of course, I read this many, many, many times as we were writing it and editing and re-editing it. Some of these chapters, I kid you not, we went into 14, 15, 16 drafts, which shows you our dedication. But this year, trend number 10, inside the class action antitrust lawsuits. Wow. We're not involved. We've not been sued. We're not a party to this case. And we know that this case is going to go on for many years. We brought it in at trend number 10 this year because the potential impact of this case, should it succeed at whatever level it might or might not succeed, could be very far-reaching for the industry. We understand that not everybody understands how a class action lawsuit works or how antitrust works. So what we do in this chapter, we give you an understanding and explanation of what the allegations are, what the timeline is. We actually create a nice evolution for you from the beginning of this case to where we are now, indicating to you what's happened, what the people are alleging, what the defendants are doing, so that you can get your hands around it. This is not a press piece. This is a understanding piece, so that when you talk about this case or not talk about this case, that you can do so with a level of understanding and authority. Let's see, number 9, a very important one that I did not write. We had a guest author write this one. This is above my pay grade. But data security, just in general, there are so many things that are impacted: technology, the MLS, your brokerage, your finances, the models, the data, through a lack of broker security, technology security, taking care of your company in a better way. So we've had some high level smart technology people on security look at companies and systems and software and MLSs and give us the best practices, so that we can share with you where the holes are, where you should be careful, whether you're a manager or team agent or broker, and how you can potentially make your company safer. A simple, insignificant chapter which could save you endless days and months of headache if you get it right. Number 8, I think I'm going to leave this one for you to try and figure this one out. I'm going to give you the heading of this chapter: Redefining the Edge of the Real Estate Transaction. A fascinating chapter. We are changing as an industry. We're changing as a transaction. We're changing as real estate professionals in the space. And we try to capture here some of that evolution, what it means, what it entails, where we're going, where we're coming from, and where we think you can take your brokerage company. And that leads into MLS in Jeopardy, which is trend number 7. The MLS Roundtable put out a white paper earlier this year. We cover the highlights from that white paper. There were also some other documents put out by the Council of MLS and some other industry pundits. We've tried to pull that together for you to help you understand what we as an industry, brokers, professionals, agents, can do about the data. The data in the industry is arguably, and we've all heard it before, one of our most important assets. And we think that with all of the platforms, outside companies, technology companies, initiatives, huge amount of money being thrown at the industry, that sacrosanct data, whether it's already open, whether it belongs to somebody, whether it's shared, what the rules are, what the conditions are, it's being attacked on multiple new levels more than ever before. This chapter tries to help us understand how we as brokers can pull our strength together and find success for us so that we can continue down the path. Number 6, probably one of my favorites here. I think if you're a real estate professional, you'll find it as well. The diminishing financial viability of traditional brokerages. You can see we snuck the word traditional in there because the viability of new brokerages are still untested. And some of them we know are lost leaders, and some of them are still trying to find their mark. But traditional brokerages have been around for eons, for decades, and if not centuries. They've evolved a little, and some of them are profitable because of size and scale, but they're struggling with many of the attacks on commission structures or declining fees to consumers or lower sharing of profit that they get from the agent, higher expenses on the technology side, higher rent, more social media and or technology expenses. There's a pressure on the broker's revenue stream. What do we do in this chapter? Let me see if I can find it. Where is that? That is, I think I put a sticky on this one here because I wanted to discuss it with you guys. Yeah. Chapter 5, the diminishing financial viability of the real estate broker. We talk about the squeeze. We talk about the different sections. We look at the key broker metrics. We identified 33 different items, and then we discuss each one. What they are, what the definition is, how you could look at increasing and improving productivity, cost of sales, percentages, capital expenditure, operating expenses, overall finances, how to increase your profits, ancillary products. This chapter is, I think, 5,000 words long. It is a solid chapter for any person who is trying to make sure that in 2020, their brokerage company or their team is going to succeed at a higher level. You can succeed without the trends report. Those of you that are good business people don't need the report. But those of you that are good business people also understand that a good research company, a good consulting company, a good analysis of any topic where somebody, especially if it's somebody that's dedicated, committed, smart, spends 60 hours to take one topic, and that's roughly what we do, one topic, and take a deep, deep dive. you are going to get a lot of insights here that you probably will not get anywhere else. I mean, bold words, maybe you'll pick up snippets somewhere else, but collectively, this is the best read that you will find anywhere. Okay, we're only halfway through the report. I have no idea how long this video has been so far. I told them I am not going to look at a clock. I am just going to fly here. So let's see number 5. Oh, so what we did here is we generally don't like featuring one specific company. We usually would feature the concept, the strategy, and discuss the logic behind it and the philosophy, and then use companies as examples. And again, any company that's ever featured in the Trends Report or listed as an example did not pay for it. We don't sell pay-to-play spaces. It's just not who we are. So when we put a company in here, it is because we believe that that company is the best example or a great example of what we believe the concept, the theme, the trend is trying to personify. So we want to give you something that you could hang a hook on and understand how you can compare to it. This year we did, however, decide we were going to feature 3 companies. A little bit more than just a mention. And the reason for that is that we think in the last couple of years, due to the huge sums of capital investment in the industry, due to the fact that some of the big companies have become bigger and bigger, some have spent hundreds of millions, if not allegedly billions, into building platforms, because some have changed their business plan 90-degree sharp angle into a kind of a new angle, a new direction, a new business model. We believe that some of these changes are so significant that some of these companies in their own right are becoming almost like the perfect storm. They're becoming a weather storm upon to themselves, and they are going to be game changers. And whether you agree or disagree is not the point, because we're not here to promote those companies. We're here for you to better understand them. So we took 3 companies this year, in no specific order. We took Compass, we took Keller Williams, and we took Zillow. 3 completely different companies, right? One, a relatively new, modern, fast-growing company that's been funded to the tune of 1.5, 1.6 billion that is allegedly changing the industry. We have a more traditional kind of a company, Keller Williams, that has been one of the fastest-growing companies in the last decade or two, that has said that they are going to retool and restructure their own business, and they are going to invest a huge amount of money, allegedly $1 billion, into restructuring the real estate transaction. And they seem to be the most successful at doing that at the moment. And of course, Zillow, a game changer in its own right, when it was founded in 2005, has now suddenly made it Zillow 3.0 and making a hard turn and moving away from its traditional portal and advertising and even premier agent routes into a more iBuying route. We find both, all 3 of those companies fascinating. And we felt that there are so many stories and rumors and news put out that is sometimes not yet quite funded or tested or reviewed to the nth degree. So we decided to jump on a plane. We visited all 3 of those companies. We were given open carte blanche to talk to the CEO and many different members of management. We tested their products. They gave us access to their products and services. We were even able, in some cases, to talk to some of their clients. And we most certainly did talk to some of the agents that are associated with the company. So we try to get information from multiple levels. Management, of course, we looked at everything in the media, inside, tested the products ourselves, talked to some of the clients, talked to some of the agents, both positive and negative. And these articles are not promotional pieces for them, buy them, pay for them. It is us looking at them and saying, wow, these are players. These are significant players. And if you're in this space, whether you are going to join them one day or compete against them, it doesn't matter. You need to understand them. And we are going to now, on an ongoing basis in the future, every year, take 1 or 2 companies that we believe are game-changing companies, and we will analyze them. And we did that this year with 3 of them. Let me see where it is. Compass is one. And what we did is not only do we look when they started, where they started, which is sort of more factual kind of stuff. We looked at their building blocks, their components, their software, their management, their platform, their funding, their marketing, their branding. I mean, we did a deep dive. So each of these are covered in about, let me see, it looks like about 15, 16 pages. And again, remember, no ads here in between. We even gave you very cool timelines for all of them so that you could see how these companies progressed. Because many times it's like a person growing up, becoming, from a child to a high, elementary school, a middle school, a high school, and a teenager, an adult, and then going to university, and then going to life. As we as humans change, companies also change. And when you look at some of these companies and you see the steps that they've taken, not all the steps were good, not all the steps were right, but they are steps that have created the companies to what they are today. And if you read through this, I'm sure you're going to keep this as a reference book on your table, and you should. There are so many pieces of useful information that you can use. We've tried to write the Trends Report as a kind of a deep dive, best practices, tips, guidelines, snippets of information that you could include in your business plan, in your marketing plan, in maybe blogs and articles, or that would just make you a better leader overall. Again, success to you if you decide that you can do it alone. Here we've dedicated lots of time. Yeah, lots of time. I mean, 700 hours. The last chapter, which we think is the most important chapter for 2020, of course, every year, the Trends Report is not an update. It's a completely total rewrite. So we start with a clean sheet of paper, and anything can make it into the Trends Report every year. We usually start with 15, 16, 17 chapters. We end up with 10 because as we write the 16, 15, 16 chapters, we'll actually say, oh, this one doesn't have enough meat. This one doesn't have enough legs. This one's not making it. This one's not coming together. This one we can't validate or support or get the accurate information. So by the time it makes it in here, we have a lot of research that validates why this specific trend is important. The number one trend that we believe for 2020 that agents and brokers should really get their hands around is the iBuyer revolution. I know that you've read a lot about it in the media, and a lot has been covered. I mean, we try in this report to cover Opendoor, OfferPad, Zillow, Redfin Now, Knock, Perch. We discussed the landscape. We compare it with the traditional sale. We discussed the revolution I see here, the anatomy, the evolution. We've got a timeline for you here. What have we got more? Financing, how it works. We discuss, Fly Homes is even in here. Ribbon is in here. Bungalows in here. Homewood's in here. Of course, we discuss the traditional ones, which you also know, Zillow and Redfin and Opendoor, OfferPad. So the big ones are in there. And again, the Trends Report does not knock, promote, or deliberately try to seek to influence you to like or not like a concept or a trend. This is our best attempt at giving you a objective, neutral, comprehensive, and it's hard. I mean, when we say pencils down, like an exam, it's pencils down. I can promise you that there are times which we wish we had hundreds of more hours to write. But you get to a stage, because we know that you guys want this now. We started by saying December. It is the month which most people use for planning for the next year. So our commitment is to get it to you guys always the first week in December. We always try for the first Monday in December, but the first week in December, so that you can sit with your company, your board, your management. Many organizations buy 5, 10, 15 copies. Associations and MLSs especially sometimes buy 20, 30, 40 copies, where they give them to their board members, because this becomes the baseline. This is the universal understanding of everything that's happening at the moment. This is what's important. If you get this, if you read this, if you understand this, you will have such a vastly superior knowledge of what's going on in the industry at the moment that you will be able to sit and say, how do these 10 trends apply to my zip code, my city, my neighborhood, my town, my organization, whether you're a franchise or independent or a team or a broker, doesn't matter. You'll see which applies. I had this one broker, which I admire very much. I saw him once at one of the big real estate conferences, and he was sitting there in front of me, and I noticed he had my report on his lap. And of course I was fascinated, and it was colored in. And I thought, what the hell? I mean, we don't color our report. And he had taken a green and a pink and a yellow highlighter. And he had read the report, and every time he felt he agreed with something or it applied or he thought he wanted to revisit it again, he highlighted in green. Anything that he was uncertain about, wasn't sure about, thought, well, maybe, maybe not, he marked it in yellow. And something that he disagreed with or said, well, that'll never work in my company, it won't apply, he used the pink or the red highlighter for. And he said that helped him. He gave it to all of his members of management or his board of directors, told them all to do the same. And then they got together in December, and he would say to everybody, you've got your report, you've read the report, now let's get together, let's read all the green stuff. He said, and that became their operating agenda. Just the fact that everybody had highlighted, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 40 items in green. He said, there was more than enough information for me and my company to use to prepare that we could run for years, let alone 12 months, because I knew that 12 months later, you were going to once again give me a trends report. That is T360's commitment to you. From myself, Paul, our editor, Jack, our president, Tinas, our chief operating officer, and the rest of the entire T3 team. We thank you for supporting us for the year 2019. We look forward to serving you in 2020, and we hope that the 2020 Trends Report that just came out this week in December serves you well and helps you to be more successful. From us to you, thank you and happy holidays. Take care.